Can we explain ourselves to the American public, to the U.S. Congress, and to the Office of the Secretary of Defense in a way that they can understand the things that most of you have lived and understand so well? I'll give you just one example from an anecdote that occurred at the dinner party I was attending last night, which involved a discussion about a major figure who formerly worked in the OSD policy, who had a big hand, right, in all these national strategic documents that have rolled out, most of which, well, they don't treat the Army in the way that most of us in this room think the Army should have been treated. So there was discussion about how much combat power, say, a 500,000 person active component Army would really bring. 500,000 people seems like a lot of folks after all, right? To a lay person at least, even lay people who, again, spend lots of time in the national security space. So he said, you know, 500,000 people would seem to be adequate for nearly every kind of imaginable problem that this country might faces. But of course, one has to get into those numbers and explain them in a way that this person, so involved in national strategic issues, in national security policy making, had no idea. He had no idea that, yes, we might have 500,000 people, but 80,000 of them are trainees, transients, holdees, and students, and therefore they can't fight. That we have a generating force of 80 to 100,000 people who are necessary to man, train, and equip those people who might fight. That we have 20 or 30,000 people who are doing national missions like theater missile defense or security cooperation, who, sure, they could be pulled out perhaps and sent elsewhere, but said the National Command Authority thinks they're very important. So yes, you're left with maybe out of that 500,000 person force, about 300,000 or 325,000 who could be deployed somewhere. But of course, Congress itself, this isn't simply an Army preference, doesn't want to send you over there to stay till you win it, right? We want to rotate you out, and we have good reason for rotating you out. So yes, even if you want to go on, say, a 1-to-1 bog-dwell ratio, boots on ground to time in theater, right? You're talking about 150,000 people who can go at any one moment. And Congress would like to have a longer bog-dwell ratio than that. And pretty soon you're much, much smaller in the number of people who can actually go and fight at any given moment. Right? This was surprisingly news to this major figure, right? That a 500,000 force, when you're providing not only combat power, but the entire substrata of American military power, which is what the U.S. Army does, right? We don't just fight, we bring the dogs and the mortuary affairs and the cooks and the cleaners and everyone else in between that allow the other services to do their job, right? When you put all of these kinds of things together, right? That the Army has to have a certain size just to do its job. And that size is larger than even very smart people might think it should be. Now, I don't begrudge this person for not knowing that, because it's our job to explain it to him. And when he doesn't understand it, it means that people like me have failed in our job. So I conclude with that rhetorical question to say we must do a better job of explaining ourselves to the people who love this country, love the military, who love the U.S. Army too, but sometimes don't understand that this is the world's most complicated organization. And the way we run it, said, is often opaque, even to its most senior leaders. And we have to be better at explaining to the people who own the Army, the American public and their representatives, right, what we do and our vision for the future. And we must be better. We've done it well, but we haven't done it well enough.